Hello, everybody. Welcome back for the last section in the first chapter of Purposeful Designs, Earth and Space Science. We're almost done. There's a lot in this chapter. If you're one of my students, we will be doing a lot of activities to try to solidify this information. And I'm going to throw a lot at you in this video. So don't worry, we'll get it. Now, if you're not one of my students, if you're a teacher watching this and you like what you see and you want to be able to use this, you can find my note packet on Teachers Pay Teachers. For my students, you should have your note packets out and be ready to go. So our objectives today are to identify lines of longitude and latitude and demonstrate their use in connection with determining location and time, to explain the challenges in creating an accurate map, and to infer the purpose of a map based on its features. So let's get started. So the first term we need to know for maps is latitude. Latitude is the imaginary lines measuring the globe in degrees north or south of the equator. So equator's in the middle, north and south. And I have a picture of a ladder there to remind you that latitude is a lot like the rungs on a ladder. So latitude and ladder sound kind of similar, and it's like rungs on a ladder. The equator is a special line of latitude. It's an imaginary line around Earth that divides it into the northern and southern hemispheres. And as you can see right here on this globe, this is the equator. There are also lines of longitude. This is the distance in degrees east or west of the prime meridian. And I have this background with the lines going down to show you that that's the way the lines of longitude are. They go north to the south, but they measure degrees east or west of what is called the prime meridian. Another thing I like to remember is that when we look at a globe, lines of latitude get smaller the higher or lower you go on the globe. Lines of longitude are always the same length. They always go the long way around the Earth. They're all long. Okay, they do not get smaller. The prime meridian is an imaginary line that divides Earth into the western and eastern hemispheres. If you take a look at this globe here, this blue line that I have my pointer on, this is the prime meridian. It runs through Greenwich, England. I don't know how they established that, but that's what they did. Maybe you could look up the history on that. That would be interesting. So it goes through Greenwich, England, and it divides the eastern and western hemispheres. Now, lines of latitude and longitude are measured in degrees, minutes, and seconds. You're probably familiar with the degrees part, but degrees are broken up into minutes and seconds, and we'll be exploring this more in class as we find different locations on our maps using this system. Also, world time zones are based on lines of longitude. If you look here, these lines here show different time zones. Now, they don't always just go straight up and down like our lines of longitude do. That is because countries also establish the times. And say in the United States, we have 4 different time zones here in the continental United States. Well, you wouldn't want to put a time zone down the middle of a state. And so that's why the lines are not exactly straight. Or if there's a country that's not very big, you wouldn't want to have 2 different time zones in that country. So there's a little bit of leeway there. That's why they're not completely straight like our lines of longitude. And we will have practice in class on determining different times in the time zones. There are also what we call different map projections, because the challenge is the Earth is a sphere, so it's not possible to draw every feature accurately on a flat map. This would be like when you peel an orange Okay, you take that peel off, and let's say you have an intact peel, and then you try to flatten it out. It doesn't work so well. You're going to get cracks and stuff in it, right? So that is the challenge with the Earth, taking something that's round and flattening it out. So we have what are called different map projections to show us different things. So the solution is a projection, a system of lines drawn on a flat surface to represent curves. It is used so that the curved surface of the Earth can be represented on a flat map. And there are different projections. The best model of the Earth is a globe. It's a representation of the Earth that most accurately portrays distance, direction, size, and shape of every feature because, like the Earth, a globe is round. But the different projections, first we have the azimuthal projection. This is best for creating maps of the Earth's poles. Now, in projections, we're taking something around and we're trying to put it on this sheet of paper. And so what they do for the azimuthal projection, they take the paper and they kind of try to curve it around the globe a little bit. And it's like they're shining a flashlight through the globe and then drawing what is projected onto the paper. And so they kind of follow that curve a little bit and they get this type of projection. There's also a conical projection in which they take the paper, they make it into a cone, they set the globe inside, the sphere inside, and they project light through it, and then they would draw what is projected through. And then there's this cylindrical projection. This is where they would take the paper and they would make it into a cylinder like this and then do that. Draw what they see projected on the paper based on that. Now, all of these projections are most accurate where they actually touch the globe. If they're not touching the globe, like up here at the poles for the cylindrical projection, this is going to be the most distorted part of the map. That's why you see on this map, Antarctica looks really big. It's not that big. It's not spread out like that. It's actually pretty small, but it's exaggerated here because of the type of projection that is used. So depending on what you're trying to observe with a map, you would use different projections. There are also different types of maps depending on what you want to study. There are tectonic maps that we're going to be taking a look at. This uses lines to show existing faults in the boundaries between tectonic plates. They may also include symbols showing where earthquakes and volcanoes have occurred. So when we study the Earth's crust and we study earthquakes and volcanoes, we will be using a tectonic map. There's also topographic maps. Maybe you've seen one of these before. They use contour lines labeled with height above sea level to show land elevation. So you see all of these lines? Those are called contour lines. And the lines usually drawn in circles or ovals that represent the elevation height of the land. You can see right here, they're drawn in circles. Right here, a circle. Okay, connecting every spot on that map that is at that elevation in that area. The closer the lines, the steeper the slope. So I have an area on this map where the lines are very close. That means that's a really steep hill. Okay, if they're more spread out like over here, that would be easier to walk up. So the closer they are, the harder it would be to walk up them, the steeper it is. One map that I'm sure we're all familiar with is the weather map. And a weather map uses various symbols to indicate cloud cover, wind, and other weather conditions. So we'll be taking a look at these maps so that you can better understand them when you see them perhaps on television. And then a really special kind of map that you might not be as familiar with are star charts. These are used by astronomers to map the sky so that you can look up and be able to tell what star or constellation you are looking at. Okay, so we're done with this section. We're done with this chapter, although I do have a lot of activities planned for us. And in this section, we have identified lines of latitude and longitude. We're going to use these in class to determine locations and also to figure out different times in different places. We talked about the challenge in creating an accurate map, the fact that we're trying to make something round flat. And we have looked at the purposes of different maps. And we are actually going to be doing a lab where we make our own topographic map. So if you're one of my students, make sure you have your 5 questions down and your notes are complete. If not, go back and remember the 5 questions are questions you think I might ask on the test.